I'm sure you're familiar with Jordan. It's a country in West Asia, home to more than 11 million people. Jordan also has a standing army of more than 100,000 soldiers. I know what you're thinking. Why this crash course on Jordan? Well, Jordan's GDP is just above $50 billion, which is less than what our story's main character is worth. I'm talking about America's Harvard University. It is worth $53 billion. 53 billion, that's more than the GDP of 120 countries. Every year, Harvard's pile keeps growing, but President Donald Trump could be putting a stop to it. He is reviewing government funding to Harvard. How much money are we talking about here? Around $9 billion. That's $8.7 billion in grants and around $255 million in contracts. Harvard University was supposed to get this money over the next couple of years, but Donald Trump has paused it. Why? Because of Harvard's response to Gaza protests. Trump says the university did not crack down on anti-Semitism, that Jewish students were targeted by protesters, hence the decision to review the funding. Trump did the same to Columbia University as well. He withheld $400 million in federal funding. Next thing you know, Columbia changed its policy. Now, we'll stay away from the politics for now. Instead, we'll focus on the money. How did Harvard University end up with $53 billion? Why did it need another $9 billion? And where will this money go? Where does this money go? When we say Harvard has $53 billion, we're talking about the Harvard endowment. Think of it as a funding pool. Every donation in the university's history, every gift, every check, all of it goes to this endowment. Harvard then invests this money in different places like in stocks, private equity or hedge funds. And the returns? Well, that is used to run the colleges. These returns make up 1/3 of Harvard's expenses. What about the rest? Well, that comes from other sources like federal funding and tuition fees. Look at last year's split. Harvard's total expenses came to $6.4 billion. Out of this, $2.4 billion came from the endowment and the rest from grants and fees. So let me recap. Harvard University is sitting on $53 billion. It is making billions from this fund every year, yet it was slated to receive $9 billion more. $9 billion of American taxpayers' money. Where exactly does it go? One expense is financial aid. Harvard has almost 25,000 students. Around 55% of them get some sort of financial assistance. Another expense is salaries. This university has more than 20,000 faculty and staff. They're some of the best in the world, which means they're highly paid. Then you have upkeep and capital expenses. Harvard has multiple buildings, libraries, and museums. It also sits on a massive parcel of land, almost 5,000 acres in size. So clearly, maintenance will be expensive. And finally, we have research. Harvard conducts dozens of studies and experiments every year. They cover fields like medicine and technology, and this is where federal funding comes in. So the US government wants to study, say the US government wants to study certain diseases or to weaponize certain technology, which they do all the time, then they will ask Harvard to carry out the research. In return, the university gets money. Last year, the US government paid Harvard $686 million. Nearly $500 million came from just one agency, the National Institutes of Health, NIH. And over $50 million came from the Pentagon, the American Defense Ministry. Obviously, a lot of this money is used for the actual research, to buy machines and to pay researchers, but sometimes the money is also misused. That's what happened at Stanford in 1991. Government money was used to repair the sailing team's yacht. It was even used to upgrade the university president's closet and pay for his laundry. It tells you what the downside is. Yes, the money contributes to cutting-edge research, but the oversight is lacking. And that's just one problem here. The sheer size of this funding is also problematic. $9 billion is a lot of money. Fun fact, it is equal to all of Afghanistan's central bank assets. Assets that are frozen in America. How can such a bloated budget be justified, especially in a country like the US? Around 2/3 of American adults do not have a college degree. Almost 42 million Americans have student debt, 42 million. Yet the government is giving billions to elite colleges, colleges that are unthinkable for most Americans. How can this be justified? Supporters say Harvard has a multiplier effect. Say you spend $1 on research, that research could lead to medical or technological breakthroughs, thus saving many more lives and dollars. So supporters say it's worth it. But critics say it's not. They want this money to be spent more widely on schools, on student loans, and on community colleges. The fact is, US college funding did need a review. If not for anti-Semitism, then certainly for wasteful spending.
Greeting you with aloha and namaste.
I love India.
Presence, occupation of a territory by another country pertains to India, what we saw in Kashmir.
How do you see Trump's America?
Yes, the current administration behaves differently from the previous administration.
Are you saying that there are foreign powers who are trying to bring down the current government in Syria?
Exactly.
Bluntly, Iran, maybe Russia too.
Prime Minister Modi committed to South-South, cooperation.
Not over 50%.
Is Ukraine prepared to pay the price for that peace?
No compromises at the cost of territorial integrity and sovereignty.